Are you guys racing Ironman Kalmar this year? Well, if so, this is the video for you because myself and a fellow experienced Ironman University certified coach are going to go through all the key things you need to know about to smash your race day in Kalmar in August. And so let's get you up to speed. Whether you're doing your first Kalmar or you're looking for a PB, this is the video for you. So myself and my guest coach, Jason Lentzke, are going to go through the swim course and give you key tips on it, the bike course, key tips, run course, and obviously a little bit of transition flow as well. And we'll wrap up with some race logistics recommendation in terms of packing, in terms of the race day venue, etc. So strap in. We're going to go take you on a bit of a roller coaster. But who are we? My name is Stephen Moody. I am an Ironman U certified coach for over 15 years. I've been coaching for 20 years and I am based in Dublin, Ireland. And I've got a number of athletes to the start and to the finish line of Kalmar. And I'm delighted to be working with Jason Lentzke on this, who is based in the States, and he'll give himself a bit of an intro now.
Thanks, Steve. Yep, Jason Lentzke here, based in Phoenix, Arizona, Southwest United States. And I've been fortunate enough to be coaching since 2012. After discovering this amazing sport in 2005, I work with athletes of all ability here in the States and internationally, and been fortunate to guide seven Americans to the finish line in Kalmar. And I'm really looking forward to sharing their experience and some course tidbits that our viewers can take advantage of.
Yeah, brilliant. We're really happy to have you on board, and having that actual sort of recent athlete experience is going to really help this video come to life. So I think we just dive into it, Jason.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first off, swim course. Looks a bit of a one loop course in the sea. How did your guys find it? Any kind of big feedback on the course?
Yeah, beautiful water temperature. You're swimming in the Baltic, so be prepared for a wetsuit swim without a doubt. They did. My athletes did let me know that they encountered some jellyfish about racquetball size, but they didn't have any issues. So get in the water if you can. Check the athlete guide in terms of availability and where you can get in. But yeah, just get comfortable with the water, and of course, sighting. This is not a U shape or typical out and back course, as you can see. You're going to want to try to swim tangents or buoy to buoy to buoy. And so you're going to want to make sure your sighting is dialed in, because it is not a straightforward course. But in my opinion, that makes the course go by that much quicker. You've got a swim in and a swim out are in different places. So I don't know. Personally, I would prefer this over a two-loop course where you can have to navigate congestion on the second loop. This would be a really effective way to just stay engaged during the swim, because it's something new every time you hit the turn buoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a key thing as well. The swim out and the swim entry point here and the swim and the transition is a bit of a walk. Whatever the key tips I give my guys in this event is, although we do not encourage theft, I say every time you're in a hotel, nick those slippers or bring an old pair of runners, because you are going to be in a wetsuit walking from transition over to the swim start. And you don't want to be doing that barefoot because you are walking through here. You don't want to stand on something that might actually cut yourself. So it's also a key tip. Agree with you on the course. As I said, the one loop make it a bit easier. Sighting points will be key. I think when you turn here, aiming for this building here, and it's quite technical here as such, but this will go quite quickly. And as you said, a little bit, one or two jellyfish, but we're not talking Ironman Maryland here, are we?
We are not, no, and I don't want to sound hyperbolic. It's just a couple of my guys certainly share that observation, and it freaked them out. We don't have many bodies of water here in the desert, so they were startled, but not an issue.
True. I suppose it was that they'd be delighted to see a body of water in the desert.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's good. As I said, I think it looks. I've heard as well. It's a beautiful course as well, and it'll help go quickly. The rolling swim start. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
This is what the swim start looks like, which is unusual as well. How did your guys find this? As in, they're still diving in or jumping in, or
Yeah. So from what they shared with me, the professionals have an in-water start, and age groupers, of course, take advantage of the rolling start. it's important to communicate with your fellow athletes in the corrals. Don't be afraid to communicate. Ask them, hey, what do you plan to swim? And be really reasonable with your swim ability. If you're a 75-minute swimmer, don't line up with the 60 to 65-minute swimmers, because you're just going to get swum over. And the last thing you want is some sort of panic attack in the cooler water. Panic attacks can certainly be amplified by cooler water temps, and that's what we're going to be dealing with here. So, long story short, know your ability and honor that, and honor those around you. So communicate. I might say, hey, Steve, what are you going to swim? Oh, I'm going to swim 72. Okay, perfect. I'm going to swim 70. Let's do it. Just don't be afraid to talk. And it's going to make everyone's race that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another key thing as well. Not only do you get in the, if you put yourself in a corral too high, and then, but just to make sure for any newbies, we talk about corrals. Ironman's swims have a rolling start, so there's no mass start anymore. You will arrive on race morning, and there'll be corrals marked at under 60-minute swim, 70-minute swim, 80-minute swim, and you're to put it in on your estimated swim time. And then that's how Ironman will release the swimmers into the water. It means it's a more controlled flow of swimmers into the water. And as Jason correctly pointed out, if you put yourself in the faster one, thinking you're going to need time to avoid the cutoff, which is rubbish, because that your timing only starts when you pass the timing mat, which would be around here. Not only you getting in the way of the stronger swimmers, but also you lose that ability to draft off a swimmer of a similar ability as yourself. So as Jason said, if he's 72 minutes and I'm 74 minutes, it makes sense for us actually to work together. You swim on each other's feet, you swap around and all the rest, and that means it'll actually save energy for the rest of the day. And just to show you how that will work, just before you come to that red carpet, this is how a typical rolling swim start is lined up. You'll have the volunteers, there'll be the gates, and you will line up in the gates, and the volunteers will hold their arms out. And then after every 10 seconds, the beep will go up. These guys will lift their arms, and they'll let in 5 or so swimmers at a time. And that's how they control the actual swim start. And Jason, 100% right. Seed yourself correctly. Be honest with yourself. It'll set you up for a better day at the office. Any other tips or hints or feedback from your guys for the Kalmar swim?
In terms of goggle tint, I don't think the sunshine will be a massive issue. So I think, regular tint goggles would be just fine here. Of course, weather can change in an instant, but all of my athletes, we didn't go super dark or even an amber color. It was just a typical dark pool swim color goggle. So personal preference there, but I always like to have my athletes bring a couple different tint goggles just in case. Just always helps with visibility.
Perfect. Good call. Alrighty. So to get that done in terms of cutoffs, you've got 2 hours and 20 minutes to get that done. But I don't think that'll be a problem in that nice water. And again, if you get the right draft. Let's talk a little bit about transition now. It's a single transition. How did your guys find this? Again, this will be the swim exit, as you pointed out correctly. We finish at a different point that we actually enter the water. How did they find the flow of the transition? And any tips for newbies?
Yeah, very very organized from their descriptions, and fairly fast too. So you're going to want to be aware of wetsuit peelers. They may or may not have them. I feel like that changes every race, but be aware of the peelers if they aren't. Then as you exit the water, get that wetsuit off your shoulders down to your hips, and then just pop your bum on the ground and have a peeler. Just give it a yank. That's usually the quickest way to get it off as you maneuver your way into transition. And Steve has a really great map here queued up with what's coming first. You can see you're going to swim out, and then you've got your transition bag, benches where you can put your bike gear on, and then toss your transition bag before you depart on the bike. But we're going to talk about T2 in another slide, but both transitions should be pretty quick.
Yeah. And just to bring the American down to earth, it's very unusual. It's a more American thing that they have wetsuit strippers. I've done a couple of American races, and it seems to be quite a luxury. In European races, the norm is you got to take your own wetsuit off. Maybe it's cutbacks, or you guys are just more fancy.
Well,
But
we are soft, so that's fair.
listen, that's why I'm going back to Texas again. I enjoyed it so much, as and I love the wetsuit slippers. Yeah. So again, the main kind of transition flow, as Jason said, it's quite a fast. It does use the Ironman transition bag system, which is if you're new to Ironman racing, as in it's not like you cannot have they operate a clean transition, so you can't have your all your kit beside your bike. That's going to be just your bike and your shoes on. And then you will have to use the transition bags, which there is a blue bag, which which you will use from your swim to bike, and that's where your helmet and is going in. And there'll be a rack where you pick that up, and then the benches we put up, and you'll drop that off before you head out your bike out. There's a lot to unpack, if you pardon the pun, in terms of what's in the transition bags, but there's a video in the comments below that shows you what you should pack into it. But it does make for a faster kind of transition and a cleaner transition, as the guys talked about. In terms of your guys beforehand, any tips that you say you give to your athletes in terms of how to understand the flow of a transition, Jason, especially if it's their first Ironman?
Yeah. So the day before, just walk through. Walk through. Kind of, you know, act like you're getting out of the swim and just walk through what you're going to do the next morning. Where are you going to get your transition bag? Where are you going to sit down to put your shoes on? Where are you going to put your helmet on? And I like to look for landmarks, whether it's a light pole, a tree, something where when you exit the water, you can be like, oh, okay, there. And look, you've got maybe 3,000 other bikes there. It can be difficult, even if the corrals are lettered or numbered. It can be really tough. You've got probably a little bit of brain fog. Maybe you can't see very well. It can be tricky. So use the landmark to get kind of a ballpark of where you're headed, and then really, focus in on, okay, I'm in A7 or N12, something like that, however they're organized. But yeah, all about, walking through the day prior so that when you get out of the swim, we all get race brain. We get silly, we get stupid. You want to keep it as simple as you can to, oh yeah, there's my tree. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can encourage my guys to walk the day before. And also, with everyone having smartphones, I tell people when you get your landmark, take a picture of it. Because
Great idea.
Because I go, what was it, A or was it D? Was the number of the rack I need to come? So therefore, you're coming out of the water. You know that you're the third row up, and that's where your blue bag is. And then you grab that. And then you said, right, I'm going to sit down there. I'm going to get my bike helmet on. I'm going to get my bike shoes on. I have to run down here, and the blue arrow will show you as well. You're going to come up here, and you go, I'm, for example, the third row up here, and then I head out. And here's my bike outline. And also other key things, as you said, like other landmarks. Where's the mount line? Where's the dismount line? And walk both directions. Don't just make the mistake of, okay, swim to bike. Because when you come in, and we'll talk about this in T2, it's going to feel different because you go, okay, I was looking for the tree, but it was on the other side. But yeah, no, walking the day before, taking photographs, taking notes, and then walking in the morning because the transition will open early. Take advantage of that. Any other tips or hints for our newbies or experienced guys? Jason?
No, let me just rewind way back to the swim start. I have never had an athlete tell me I wish I would have started the swim faster. Like, remember that. Like, it should be not easy, but it should be the easiest part of your day. Like, just embrace this is going to be a long day. Like, just get through it at your prescribed effort and get in and out of transition as quickly as you can.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the bike course now. Actually, just before we go to the bike course, and just I hope you're enjoying the content and getting a lot out of myself and Jason's tips. And if you are and would like more content or kind of even contact ourselves, there's my handle. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jason's more up to date. He's more on the gram, but that's his handle there. Please do check out our content. Please like, and we'll give you some details at the end of the race if you have questions, if you want to ask and you're a little bit nervous about things, because we just want to set you up for a really good day. Okay. That's enough little promotion, but let's move on to the bike course now. Okay, bike course. This looks like a beaut. What's the feedback from
Hmm.
your guys, Jason?
Yeah. So each year my athletes have done it. They've had fantastic weather. Average air temp about 22 Celsius or about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So look, it doesn't get much better in terms of that. This is going to be a flat and fast one loop course. How flat? Uh, 750 meters, which is about 2,400 feet. So look, it's a TT bike course. If you're using a road bike, that's fine, but you definitely want to optimize that bike to maintain a ideal aero position. But definitely, if you've got two bikes, put on the TT bike, get as aero as you can because you're going to be spending a lot of time in the bar. So on that note, you're going to want to ensure you're comfortable fueling in the aero position, so you don't need to give up any watts there. Um, Also, with the one loop, look, things could get congested out there. So you've got to maintain 6 bike lengths or 12 meters as best you can. On these flatter courses, drafting it's there, but you just don't want to be guilty of that infraction. So be mindful of the athletes around you, especially as you're going in and out of aid stations. Be very vocal. Um, when people have their helmets on, especially the air helmets that cover the ears, it's pretty muffled. It can be very difficult to hear, and you kind of lose your concept of what's around you. So just be very mindful of those around you. But yeah, all in all, a very flat, fast, fun. It should be a PR bike course for a lot of athletes heading to Kalmar.
Yeah. I pulled up the elevation profile here, and you can see these little bumps here, but as we discussed earlier, that's going from 20 meters to 40 meters. That's like you're not even changing out the big ring there. You're powering over that. And what was there much reports of wind? Is it if you've got disc wheel or was it deep section wheels? Would you recommend using them?
Yeah, definitely go disc. A lot of open roads and farms. So when the wind kicks up, it can get tricky. But look, we're not talking Cozumel or Kona winds here. I would definitely go as arrow as you can. If you have any qualms, maybe go shallower on the front. But yeah, I would absolutely go disc if you have the means. Um, there's a bridge that you go over
Here we
on
are.
one of the islands, and I think that's the biggest bit of elevation you're going to see. So spectators are going to be very enthusiastic. From what I recall, there were a lot of farmers on course just cheering the athletes on. So super cool vibes. And yeah, with temperatures like that, I think it's going to be important to stay on top of your hydration, even though you may not be working as if you're in tropical conditions. You certainly need to replenish and stay on top of your fueling. I always have my athletes, remind them that you should have the urge to pee at least twice on the bike.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you're right. The road surfaces are are good. The Swedish roads, they're well maintained. The only other thing as well, there are some sort of sharp enough corners, but you will have marshals on there shouting out, giving you advanced warning. But it's flat, it's fast. There's buckets of aid stations to your point about making sure you're keeping enough on top of your fueling, and we'll talk about aid stations in a second. This is where you'll find all the aid stations, as in lots of them. And the one lap course, I love that because if you go to a Barcelona or you go to a Cascais or Portugal, it tends to lead to kind of more drafting of packs because the slower cyclists will hop onto the wheels of faster cyclists. Whereas if you're ahead and you're at the front, as an you can keep your nose clean in terms of drafting, which is really important. Um, but yeah, no, it looks like an absolute beautiful course. I do like the fact we're talking about a PR bike split. I'm definitely going to add this to my list of races for next year. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about. So you've done your 180 one loop course, and you've come in your PR. So let's talk a little bit about transition two now. Oh, sorry, before we do that, the cutoff time. There was also a random banana that popped in there. And you've got 10 hours to complete this. But as Jason said, if you keep yourself aero, top of your fueling, and pace it well, that shouldn't be a problem on this course. So into transition two. Oh, now just again, sorry, I really need to remind myself my slide flow. But just again, just the importance of aid stations. This is the typical flow of an aid station in Kalmar. You'll have the ability to drop your trash there. There'll be water. The electrolyte drink of choice is Precision Hydration in European races, and that will come pre-mixed in a bottle. And typically, that will work in a standard bottle cage. Morton gels is the bars and gels of the fruits in terms of bananas cut in half, etc., and trash at the end. Getting an aid station right, and Jason has talked about as well, making sure you're communicating going into it is an art in itself. And as newbies, a lot to unpack. So there's a video below that shows you 7 tips, demonstrates how to use an aid station, shows how the pros do it, shows the key things that you need to do, how to get in safe, fast, and out with the food you use. So again, we won't spend too much time on that, but we will now get to my transition too. Bike in, and again, as part of your familiarization, as Jason talked about, making your landmarks, one of them should be your dismounts line. You don't want to suddenly be coming in on the aero bars and realizing it's here, as in you want to be getting yourself out of the up of the aero bars, stretching out your hamstrings, getting yourself out of your shoes if you're going to do a postman dismount, as in try to get, or you know when you have to brake and get off the bike. Anything else that your guys said about transition, Jason?
No, fast. It's going to be fast, faster than the swim. You know, you've got less ground to travel, likely. But yeah, my guys specifically said that, look, if you're taking more than 3-4 minutes in T2, you're not trying very hard. And I've got some athletes who take their sweet time in transition, and they were out quickly. So yeah, get in, get out, and start the run. Apologies, but I do want to rewind one last thing on the bike. In order to set yourself up for the best marathon, don't neglect your fueling those last 30K. It's really easy to do. You start to think about the run, and you know, as Steve showed those aid stations, it came in my head. But that last, you know, from like mile 90 to 112, or that last 40K, 40K of the bike, it's so imperative to stay on top of your fueling and to maintain focus, because that's where you will run your best marathon. More oftentimes than not, that a final 40K or so dictates your marathon outcome. And on that, you know, don't leave T2 setting a new 5K PB. Everybody feels like a rock star when you leave T2 in an Ironman. You know, this is it. You just got to run the 42K. Nothing could go wrong. But yeah, it can be a very painful final 35K if you go out too hot. So I always say, don't go anywhere near your open marathon pace for the first 5K. Just cruise. You really cannot start slow enough that Ironman marathon. It should feel very relaxed. That run race doesn't really start until, you know, 20Ks, maybe even 30Ks, to tell you the truth. So patience is the name of the game in Ironman marathons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you're 100% right on you're fueling for the run in the last 30K of the bike, and then you have to be aware of that, as in you're kind of feeling elated. I've got like, you know, 180K in the bike, and I've done a PB bike split, but again, fueling then. But yeah, so again, we're running through transition. Again, you'll be going with the red bag system. This is, again, we'll talk about that, what you need in there. Essentially, you're dropping in your bike helmet, you're taking out your runners, etc. And this is your bike in, you come out, and this is the run out. And we'll talk a little bit, but also, as one of my friends, my athletes described it, says nothing good happens in transition two. So get out. The minute you start kind of sitting there thinking about your life choices, going like, oh my God, it's a marathon, you're just going to allow your legs to cramp up, get it moving. But as Jason correctly pointed out, you ease yourself in. And we'll talk a bit about the run course now. Anything else on transition two there, Jason, that we want to cover?
Sometimes there's nudity in T2. What's wrong with that? Sometimes that's a good thing.
Absolutely. It's and the Swedish are renowned for it. They're a very open culture. We like them. Us Europeans.
Be prepared. If you're coming from the States, be prepared. Have an open mind. That's all I'm saying.
And also another thing, by the way, for Americans coming over for this, another luxury you guys have that we do not, only a few races in Europe do, we do not have bike catchers. They do have it in Victoria Gasteiz. So you will be coming in and you will have to rack your own bike. So don't be waiting for the valet to happen. And again, work that into your T2. So, and yeah, there's nudity. Bro, we're all adults here. Okay.
That's right.
It looks like there's a lot in this run course, 3 loops, and
Yes.
looks like we're hitting the city. What was the, and again, back onto your other point, Jason, about easing yourself into a run. What other advice do you give your athletes for the Ironman marathon or this course in general?
Huh? For this course specifically, look, everybody's racing in a fairly high stack super shoe. They're tall, they've all got that super critical foam, maybe a carbon plate. And look, these are some of the roads are going to be covered in cobblestones, not all of it, but be mindful that you may have uneven ground. So with that high stack shoe, it's really easy to turn an ankle. So when you're going in and out of the city center or the squares, wherever you're running, just be careful on the cobblestones in these super shoes because it can be really easy to turn an ankle. But nothing you can't prepare for the day before. It's just, late in the race, you might get a little lazy with where you're putting your feet. So be mindful of that. But no, the course was really well received, incredible spectators. I love a 3 loop marathon course because you're never really too lonely. And I don't want to get ahead of myself with the finish line, but finish line vibes have been incredible from all my athletes, just one of the best experiences I've ever had. So, yeah, be prepared for a heck of a finishing shoot. And I know Steve has some really cool photos to share down the way, but yeah, like we touched on fueling, have your fueling plan pre-race. Obviously your carbohydrate intake on the run is going to be less than the bike, but just have a plan, and if you lose all your fuel, like be prepared, they're going to have Morton gels and precision hydration drink. Like think ahead, plan. Okay, if I'm switching to Morton gels, there's roughly 30, almost 30 grams of carbs per gel. So I need 2 per hour. Do I need 3 per hour? Figure that out beforehand, just so you have a plan when things go awry. Because it's just problem management. That's Ironman in a nutshell. It's improv from the second you start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The whole thing is about things will go wrong, as in just how much you adapt and survive at the time. Sometimes there'll be big things. You might get a mechanical, might be something small. You might drop your nutrition bottle, but you're right, as in like you adapt. If it's a mechanical, look for the motor support. If you drop your fuel, already know where the aid stations are. We gave you the information the aid stations. Top tip: print that out and put it on your stem of your bike, so therefore you don't have to think about it because as Jason correctly pointed out, we all get race brain. We might be very intelligent people in our working lives. The minute we put ourselves in lycra and a bit of adrenaline, we become very stupid. And so we forget basic things, and that's why we need to set up our Garmin to tell us to eat and tell us to drink. Because like imagine that needing to be advised to drink and eat when you're in the middle of a 12 plus hour a day out racing.
Mhm.
The other thing, as well, and Jason said about the aid stations, a lot of people talk about was it if they drop their nutrition. I have a different take on this, as in I recommend that my athletes carry nothing when they leave T2. And why is that? Because if you look how often the aid stations are, they are roughly around every 2 to 3 kilometers, and therefore you can go and you can actually you don't have to carry anything. And in a very sort of selfish way, my dream race is to actually earn my race fee back in eating Morton gels on Ironman. So if I go through and I eat well, probably around a couple of hundred, which might be a bit much, but why carry it? It's all there. They're well stocked. There'll be loads of food there. You don't need to worry about it and know it and build into your nutrition strategy. And also building a little bit on Jason's really clever point about holding very much back for the first 5K. What I tell my guys is break. It's quite daunting, especially if it's your first Ironman, to think about I'm going to do a marathon now. And you may not have done a marathon in your training, which is absolutely fine. So I get my guys to break it into 4 10Ks. Just think about you have to
Yeah,
come
great.
on 10K. And part of that is Jason's finding your feet for the 5K, first 5K. Ease yourself in. Second and third 10K, you're trying to get that long pace your pace you've done your long runs, your bricks. And the last 10K, and Jason, I'll be interested in your take on this. That sucks. No matter how much training you do, it's just you're in the hurt locker, and that becomes just a mental battle just to keep going. Any tips you give your guys for the last 6 miles of the marathon?
Yeah, I always have athletes, write down their why before they race. They don't need to share it with me. You don't need to share it with anyone, but yeah, that's the last 10K. You just have to reach in and that's your why you do this. And it's all grit. not much can prepare you for that last 10K of a marathon, but that's why we do this. It's a pretty magical feeling when you run those final 400 meters down the chute. You just got to have your why and lean into that.
Yeah. I also get my guys to do dedications, as in like, for example, if you're running, a lot of people, the whys might be they're trying to, for dedicating to a lost friend, family member, or they're doing it to inspire their kids, etc. And I say in the last one, or like pick out 2 kilometers of that and dedicate that to your mom if you've lost her and all that. And then you're sort of going, I am not walking during this is my mom's 2K, or I'm doing this for my daughter Anna, who said she'd love to see it. So if you dedicate it, it almost guilt you into keeping going. Visualization is key as well in terms of think about the finish line, think about meeting your family, your friends at the end. Mantras. Do you get your guys to use mantras at all, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, look, we there's probably a lot that are not safe for work, but just lean into it. I tell my athletes to seek discomfort every time they train, so that makes race day that much easier. But yeah, this is it. This is what you prepare for. Training doesn't mean a darn thing. It's all about the race and how well you can execute. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely.
just
And it is, and it
embrace
is
it.
this is I also say to my guys, this is your reward for all the hard work. This is you
Mhm.
have got crowds, and as you mentioned as well, that the crowd are out in their thousands to support. This part of the course here, and when you run into the city centre, is going to be nuts. There's going to be loads of people out cheering, and you feed off that energy as well. So like, yes, it's going to be hard, but you find ways to keep them moving, and it's all about that one foot in front of the next. And
Yeah, definitely. And if you do see your friends and family out there and you're just a grump, oh, you're just like, ah, you need to eat. You need sugar. Like I think we're all guilty of it. I've been doing this for 20 years. And if I see my mom or my wife and I'm like, ah, like, okay, reality check, like you need to eat something because you should be smiling when you see your loved ones.
No, absolutely. I like that. That's a good indicator. Although it means
Mhm.
I'm grumpy, I need sugar all the time. But any
Yeah.
that's the age I am.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And again, in terms of you're getting the job done in from your swim, from your when you cross the timing mat, your swim, your T1, your bike, your T2, and your run, you've got 16 hours to get the job done, and this is your reward. One of the
Mm.
best finish lines in the European circuit. Look at that crowd. That when you see that there was that castle, the red carpet's there. That's an awesome experience. And this is what your guys talked about, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, just I got goosebumps looking at it. It just looks amazing. They said it gave them vibes of a basketball arena. Just that many people. So yeah, certainly one of the best finish lines on the circuit. I mean, that backdrop doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's rock star vibes. This is the moment.
Mhm.
Cool. Alrighty. So just in terms of some other things that you should think about, I hope that you got up to speed. And of course, we're going to talk about some other useful stuff here and the race day venue, and also a chance to reach out to myself or Jason if you have any questions. Um, what we've talked about, Jason made a lot of really, really good points about making sure you have your race day nutrition tied down. There's and if you're in your last couple of peak weeks now, you should be looking at nailing that down. Because if you're still uncertain, hopefully you're not, there's some video in the comments below. You will need to start working about packing, especially if you're coming from the States or like. And I have a guide on how to pack, a downloadable checklist, etc. And something about when you come to taper time, when you actually start thinking that you're actually injured, you're losing fitness, and you're getting sick, you're not. It's just taper madness. I talk about to handle that. And just some key things, making sure logistics, making sure you're packing all the right things, making sure you know your race day schedule, etc., reading the athlete guide. So check out, there's some really helpful videos and comments below. Um, the race day venue. Now, again, I've based this on last year's timetable, so this may change when the actual formal athlete guide comes out, but they typically follow the same pattern. You'll be able to register between Tuesday and Friday. It's a late check-in on Tuesday, but every other day it's 10 a.m. The athlete briefing in English will be on the Friday, around 2 p.m. But again, verify that in the athlete's guide. On Friday as well, you'll have your bag and your bike drop off. You have to drop your bike and your bag the day before, and that's only the time when you'll get your championship. Again, just beware, like people come out of they've got their bag and they've got their red and the blue bags and their arm bag on the other side, and then they go, I didn't get my time chip. You only pick up your time chip when you're actually checking in your bike. And that's when Jason correctly pointed out that you should walk your course, take your landmark pictures, etc. And race morning, transition opens at 5. You will have access to your bike and your blue and your red bags. So top tip, do not leave your bike computer on it overnight. Do not leave your food on it overnight because you don't want anything knocked off. You don't want to come back. And if you leave food on the bike, it'll be covered in ants or whatever is going on, insects, etc. Race morning starts at 7 a.m. and you have the time of your life. Jason, any last minute tips or anything else you'd like to share with the gang? And you've been great so far and really appreciate all the input. So thank you.
Yeah, if you're coming from the States, just be prepared for jet lag. You're going to need quite a few days prior. But I also suggest staying, at least a week after. You're in a beautiful part of the world. See a lot of Scandinavia, and you're so close to Europe. Yeah, visit Steve in Ireland. Knock on the door, say you watch the video, and you're like, "Hey, man, let me in. Time for coffee." But no, spend as much time there as you can and really soak in the culture. I love traveling abroad for Ironman because it's such a beautiful way to really immerse yourself in the culture, and just see another part of the world and share this experience with people you may never see again. It's just cool to connect with people all over the world doing the same thing you do.
Yeah, it is.
In
And
terms
we
of,
actually are, despite all the differences and all the rest in the culture, and us, we're very
Mhm.
like-minded. And I find that throughout, as in you're goal-driven, you've taken on a massive challenge, etc. And by the way, I love the idea. And again, this is what I do as well. I typically go to an Ironman and turn into a racecation
Yeah.
because if you think about it, the ones who are supporting us and the ones we wouldn't get to the finish line at the start line at all beforehand are family and friends. And so therefore that's the time afterwards. You chill out. You're not worrying about what carbs you need to eat. You're not worrying about keeping your race
Mhm.
weight down. You're not worrying about needing to be give it time to get back. You know what? Let's go check out this castle. Let's go, as I said, visit Ireland and do pop in. I'm more than happy
Mhm.
to see. But yeah, racecation is a lovely way to give back to the people who have supported and you've had to sacrifice social nights out, etc. So it's a cool way to give back. Um,
Def- Definitely. Yeah. Great
cool.
perspective there. And one last thing is Kalmar's not the easiest to get to. Like it's a drive or a train from Copenhagen or Stockholm. So just be prepared for that. I mean, if you're racing Kalmar, you'll be prepared, but be surprised. So be prepared for a big commute from Copenhagen or Stockholm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, that's part of the last minute tips, making sure you've mapped out your logistics as well, but you don't want to have that and give yourself time. As I said, I always worry under about people who train for 6 to 9 months for an Ironman and they try to arrive 2 days beforehand. And then what happens then if your bag gets lost in a flight or your bike gets lost in a flight, God forbid, you need to have time to handle a little emergency. So it's easy to, and as you correctly point out, Jason, you get the chance to absorb the culture, you kind of wander around, you're meeting fellow Ironman athletes, etc. And it's like if you do arrive a day earlier than you probably should, but it means you get a chance to like maybe your bike gets damaged in transit, you get a chance to go
Mhm.
to a local bike shop and they will sort you out. But don't be the guy at last minute. Give yourself some time on it. Okay, guys, I hope that was useful. If it was again, please check out our socials and all the rest. Here's some details. If you have any information, myself and Jason, we'd delighted to handle any questions. As I said, we want to set you up for success on this one. info@smartenduranceSolutions.com, jerensky@me.com. And that's Jason's website. There's Jason's YouTube handle. There's my website, etc. And we really hope you have an absolute smashing day in Kalmar. And leave feedback in the comments if you found it useful and or how you got on. We'd be delighted to hear from you. All right. Any last words there, Jason?
No, appreciate you having me and look forward to another one, man.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.